Hi everyone, welcome to my little paintbrush. My name is Cami and it is the holiday season and we're kicking it off with a favorite of our artist. This is our penguin. This was a really popular one when we had our studio and we taught in-person classes. And so we've been asked to make it into a paint kit for a long time. And that's exactly what we did. So speaking of paint kits, hopefully you have one. If you do not and you're wondering where to get that, they're on our website. All of these tutorials come with a paint kit that has all the supplies you need. You have your canvas, it's prepped, it's ready, your paints, your brushes, paper towel, palette, all those things, okay? If you don't have that, grab the supplies you have on hand, maybe do a freehand sketch of any penguin you would like. This one's super cute though, and just jump in and paint with us. So let me show you the size brushes I'm going to use today. I have a number 12 inch, not 12 inch, but just that would be a big brush. Number 12 flat. I have a number 6 round and a number 2 detail. These are great sizes for beginner artists and especially for little kids. So no matter what the age today, this is a good few brushes to start with. Here is our paint palette. I've got my colors out. I've separated my whites into 2 piles. This is helpful to keep our white from getting contaminated by all of our other colors. So that's why I like to separate it. I also have 2 jars of water. I like to have 2. I like to use jars because they're weighted so they don't kind of tip over as I'm rinsing my brush. But I do like to have 2 so that I can wash my brush in 1 jar and have some clean water throughout the painting to dilute the paint or to highlight anytime I just might need some clean water. I think that's it. Let's dive right into this cute painting. We're going to start with our background. So I'm going to get my number 12 brush wet in some water, tap it off, and I'm going to do a really light turquoise background. You, of course, can switch that up however you'd like. I'm just going to start moving some paint together. And notice how I do that in little like portions, little bits at a time. We don't want to get a big scoop of one and move it to the next. We want to kind of give ourselves options as we move forward. Our background is pretty small. I mean, there's not a ton of background space on this painting, so it shouldn't take us too long. However, I will remind you that this is a recording, so you have the privilege of pausing this if I get too fast, of rewinding it, of just taking a break, all those things. So make sure you utilize that. Don't feel like you have to paint at my pace. Everyone kind of paints at a different pace, and sometimes I can be a little fast. Part of that has to do with how fast my paint dries under all these lights. I kind of have to move pretty quickly, so don't feel like you have to go at my pace. We're doing our best to stay out of our penguin and all the details of our subject matter. However, if you do get paint inside these areas, don't panic. Just let it dry, go back and paint over it. Now I am painting on a mixed media paper. This is just a preference for recording. The original is done on a canvas. If you have our paint kit, you have a canvas. And so I would encourage you to wrap your edges. And if you're wondering what the heck that means, let me show you with our original painting here. Here's our cute penguin. Do you see how the edges of my canvas are painted? You want to do that because then when you're all finished and you want to display it, maybe you put it on an entry table, maybe there's a shelf in your room. When you set it on there, it's a nice completed piece and it just looks better overall. Okay, let's wash our brush really good. Get a nice good wash here. And let's dive into our hat. So what I'm going to do is take a touch of white over to my red and lighten some red just a little. I don't want to make pink, okay? But I do want the hat to be slightly lighter than the berries so that there's some contrast there. And so I'm going to try and just lighten some of this up. And I'm just doing little bits at a time so I can kind of manage and stay in control with how light it's getting. Okay, that looks pretty good. Go ahead and paint our hat in. Same thing, wrap your edges, go around. Even though your berries are going to be red too, I'm just trying to stay out of them so that I can give myself a reference of where those are. Come across the top of the hat. Pressing all my bristles down, that actually helps me stay in control of my brush. I'm going to press those down. And I'm still using my number 12 flat. I'll use this for the majority of this painting. If you're feeling kind of overwhelmed, maybe you're not feeling in control with the number 12 and you want to switch it, you can use your round, your number 6 round. I just wouldn't suggest you use your detail brush unless you're painting little tiny details. Otherwise, you'll give that brush a bad hair day. And a detail brush with a bad hair day means we don't get good details. So that's my suggestion with that. Okay, so that hat is done. Now let's go ahead and paint the red parts of our scarf with the same color. Okay, so our scarf starts with red here, and every other rectangle is red. I kind of like the shape of this brush too because it has that squared off base, and so it kind of helps with these particular strokes. So paint one in, skip one, and then do the next. Now, a lot of our penguin is white, and so I like to just do my very best to stay out of that white paint or that white canvas. Sometimes we make a choice just not to paint that portion at all, especially with our little artist. And if we stay out of it, it makes that easier. So just doing our best to stay out of it. Okay, this one is red right here as we're going into the knot of our scarf. And like I said, I enjoy using this flat brush because it helps with the shape that I'm trying to get. But this would be fine to use a round brush with. So the center of our knot here is red. Paint that in. And this kind of has a bendy center to give the idea of its rounded shape. So we'll get that in. Sometimes these take a little concentration. You have to remember to breathe. Okay, then we skip one down here and go to this one. These are kind of on a slant. Remember, you can pause the video if it's going a little too fast for you. Make sure you don't rush through this. You want to be proud of your work when you're done and not feel like you just zoomed right through it. Our last one on this guy is pink, or red, sorry. I love these colors together. I love the turquoise and the red. I think that might be one of my favorite Christmas combinations right now. I just think it's so fun. Okay, now the last section that's red is this one right here, and that's when I am going to jump over to my round because I will need that nice pointed part of the brush to get up there in this section here. So I will use that to kind of give myself a little more control up in here. Awesome. Coming together. Okay, now we're gonna keep that lighter red on our brush. We're gonna dip a corner in the darker red, the original color, and we're just kind of gonna float around the edge of our hat. This might be a little hard to pick up on the screen on the tutorial here. The camera might not pick up that shadow that you're making, but you're just trying to create a darker edge. Maybe the image that you have will show that a little better. Maybe not. Sometimes it's so subtle. I'm just gonna fill in another layer here. It's so subtle that it might be difficult to see, but it's just a little extra something in there. And we're gonna do the same thing on the left-hand side. We're gonna make L's, so to speak, going along our scarf. So I have that dark edge is what I'm dipping in the paint and making that L shape with, okay? And as your paint dries, you're gonna be able to see that a lot better. And it really will kind of, maybe you can start to see it now. It just kind of adds that fun additional something. On the centerpiece, I'm going to go along each edge like that. It's these little things that we add that really make a difference in the final piece. When you can look at it and go, oh yeah, there's a little something extra on there. If you're one of my little artists, this might be a step that you skip. You can kind of gauge that. Maybe an adult can help you decide if it's something you want to try or not. It's just kind of like a beginning to this idea of blending and floating colors. Okay. So we've got most of our red done. Before I wash my brush though, I'm just going to dig into this original red and I'm going to fill in my berries. And you might not be able to see a very big contrast yet with the hat red, but there should be a little bit of one and hopefully enough that they kind of stand out a little more. But when we highlight them, that's when you'll really get that difference. And there's our berries. So cute. So stinking cute. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so I'm washing my brush really, really good. You can probably hear it's swishing, swishing, swishing because I want to get that red out. Okay, after you wash it in one jar or cup, you might just think to rinse it in the clean water just to make sure you've got all that out. We're gonna go ahead and jump to the beak. I'm gonna get some white and yellow together. Let's make a nice light yellow here. And I'm gonna paint this beak. I'm gonna try and go over my pencil mark to cover it. This could take a few layers, so depending on how picky you are about that pencil mark, maybe you do several layers. Maybe you use the white, because white's pretty pigmented, and you use the white to kind of go around that beak. Later to cover it up, just depending on your tolerance for that line. Our younger artists won't mind as much, but if you're a little more picky, you might go over that a few more times. Okay, now let's make the green for our scarf, and I'm going to utilize my background color and just bring some yellow over here. And I'm going to start to make a beautiful green. I love turquoise and yellow and the green that I get from it. I just think it's gorgeous. I really, really love it. I need a dark shade of green and a light shade because I'm going to do the same thing on the scarf stripes that I did with the red. I'm going to fill it in and then shadow, do that L shadow. So I want to make sure that I have a nice dark and light version of my green. So here, I think we've got our dark. This can be as limey as you want, depending on the amount of yellow you throw in there. Or it can be cooler tones, and that's the turquoise. But once I have the base shade, which I think is that one right there, then I can start to lighten some of it. Over here with the white. And then I have the light and dark, and you can see that right next to each other, light and dark. Okay, now I'm going to fill in with the light green, the green stripes of my scarf. So here we go. This is a lot easier if your red is dry. So kind of check on that. It should be by now, but if it's not, maybe just go grab a snack and wait for that to dry. Okay. Go up here. This is a good time to just clean up that stripe in any way you feel like you need to. But look at that green. It just like, bam, it's Christmas. It's screaming Christmas now. For sure. Which is just super, super fun. Okay, just keep going. And of course, you can be the creator of this in any way you want. So you can make pink and turquoise stripes. You can do yellow. Really, you have red, yellow, and blue. If you have our paint kit, the turquoise is acting as your blue, and you have red, yellow, and blue. So you have the primary colors, which gives you the ability to really make whatever colors you want. You could do purples and oranges and all kinds of stuff. Getting our stripes in here. Just a couple more to go. And then we will be so close actually to finishing our cute penguin. Again, using the shape of my brush to really get those lines in there best that I can. And a steady hand, right? That makes a difference too. Okay, and then our last one is this one right here. And it kind of goes off of our canvas right here on the corner. So cute. So cute. Obsessed with these colors. Okay, I'm going to keep this light green on my brush and do the same thing I did with the red. I'm just going to kind of do some L shapes. Maybe you'll see them a little bit more with the green than you did the red. But I'm just going to dip a corner and we'll just do a nice L shape here. Just a subtle touch of shading in there. Yeah, you should be able to see it. It should be picking up. It is on the screen that I'm looking at here, so you should be able to see enough of what I'm doing to understand what I'm doing, hopefully. Then over here, we're going to come down this side. And we'll come down the other side. So this is a little different than L shapes. We're going down each side here. Okay. And as we go down, we're going to do L shapes, our longer L's. And then the same right here, we'll just shadow the arm a little. And also we'll come up here and shadow under this knot because the knot would be casting a bit of a shadow. So we do want to play on that as well. Okay. Cute, cute, cute. Looking so good. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's give our brush a good wash. I'm going to make a light gray for my hat. So I'm going to take just a touch of black and make a nice light gray. I don't need too much. So I'm just going to come over here, mix it together with some white. My palette is getting full, just like that. There we go. And now I'm going to wash my flat brush, the one I've been using this whole time. I'm going to make sure it's washed really, really good. Because I'm going to use white next, and I don't want any other colors to come through. So give it a nice, good wash. Okay. And now I'm going to paint the hat white. Now I don't think I'm going to paint my penguin white, because I don't really see any cleanup that's bothering me that I want to do. But if you want to paint the face and the stomach white, this would be the time to do that too. But I'm just going to paint the hat, the rim of the hat, because I'm going to float the gray in it or blend the gray in it. And I need that surface wet to do that. So that's why I'm making those decisions. And you can do whatever you feel is best on your painting. Okay, so I'm just filling this in with white really quick. And that's going to be something that you're probably not even going to see because it's just white. But acrylic paint blends wet into wet. So you really need to wet your surface if you're going to try and do any kind of blending. Which is exactly what we need to do. Okay, there we go. Now, once that is done, I'm going to keep white on my brush and then go into this gray, okay? And I'm going to go all around the rim of my hat with the gray. I haven't painted these leaves yet, and so I can just kind of go over them and still see them. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to blend this back and forth, okay? Oops. Got a little, should be able to still see your holly leaves. Okay, so back and forth, I'm blending this in. Now, the real reason for this step is to have that separation of the hat and the white face. This seemed like the best solution for that because we needed to separate those two. And this was the best way to do that. So that's what we did. And if you are struggling with the blending, usually it's my little under 8-year-old artists that struggle with this. You can just get your detail brush and outline in gray. And that will do the trick for you too. I like this because it's just kind of like a blended effect that's not super harsh line. And I just like the overall look of it better. But if you're struggling with it, just outline it. All right. And there we go. That part, now you can see the head is separated. The face, which is what we wanted. Okay. Wash my little number 6 round, get my light green on there, and go ahead and fill in my holly. And we'll add some of the dark green to it once this is dried. So just kind of get this main layer in there. And you're welcome to use your detail brush with this step if you're feeling that that would be easier for you too. It's a small enough area that I feel like you would be okay not to ruin your detail brush too much. Let's go over here to this one. I actually think holly leaves are really fun to paint. They're just a bunch of U shapes. Brownies and smiley faces is what I would tell the kids to help them understand. Kind of a fun shape to make. Okay, so those are in. Let's see here. Yeah, looking really good. Okay, let's wash our brush out. Let's hop over to our beak again. I'm going to get my flat brush and my light yellow. Might need a little more light yellow. And I'm going to use the a dark original yellow at the base of my brush, and I'm just going to paint in almost like a smiley face. Follow that smiley face line at the base of my penguin's beak to shadow it. Okay, nice shadow. I'm trying to make it as dark as I can so you can see it in the screen or on the screen. Yellows are tricky to pick up. Okay, we are just cruising. Let's focus on the black part of our penguin. And I'm actually going to use my number 6 round for this, okay? So I'm going to add some water to my black. It's feeling a little bit thick. It's been sitting on this plate for a while, and so it gets kind of thick after a while. It starts to seize up a little bit. So I'm going to add some water. So if you need to do that, stop and add water to your paint. It'll really help it smoothly go onto your canvas. You should never have to fight paint on your surface. It should smoothly go on there. So add water if you need to help with that. Okay. Now we're going to start up top of the face and work our way down. So let's go ahead and start with this fun little section right here that kind of comes down and meets the beak. Just fill that in. Got to slow down a little because we've been working hard on our painting and we don't want any of this black paint to take over and mess up all of our hard work. So kind of have to slow down a little. Don't rush this step. There we go. I might just jump over and grab my detail brush just because I want a nice clean edge up here when it meets the hat, and my number 6 wasn't giving me that. There, that feels better. I'm a little OCD, I'm not gonna lie. I like those clean edges. Black is so, it's like an obvious, if you miss the mark, it kind of shows up a little more. So whenever I use black, I like to kind of lock in a little more. That feels better. And you can jump back and forth between your number 6 round and your detail anytime you need to, if you're feeling that way. Let's go ahead and paint in these fun egg-shaped eyes here. Love the shape of this penguin's eyes. Super, super fun. A little bit different, you know, which makes it even more fun. And this is when our penguin starts to come to life. Start to get the details in there. And the eyes are definitely one of those things that just wakes the painting up. So, so cute. Okay, now we're gonna do the sides here. And again, if you're not able to just brush on your surface like this, if your brush stroke is breaking and you're having to reload your paint a bunch, then you probably need to add water to your paint. You should be able to, even on a canvas, have a nice smooth brush stroke. Looking good. Also, you can move your canvas however you need to. You can turn it upside down. You can lay it on a flat surface if you're up against an easel. I like to turn my canvas as I paint. I just can't when I'm recording because I've got all my cameras and my lights. Let's do this side. Nice and steady. Kind of sideburns, I guess we could call them, huh? Or penguins' sideburns. Kind of looks like them anyway. All right. Look how cute this guy's looking. Okay. These areas are a little easier. They're a little bigger. Do these arms. And you can wrap these right around the bottom of your canvas. Just follow that nice pencil line we've put in there for you so you can have a nice reference, which is helpful. Lots of concentration, making sure we don't mess up all of our hard work from earlier with our scarf, all of our colors. Look at this guy. Now we've got a little section right here that's black. Again, you can wrap that under your canvas, really following the picture around all the edges. And then we have the cute little arm. That's just hanging out right here between the scarf. Love this little arm. Love it so much. Look how cute. Look how cute. Just love it. Okay, washing that brush out. Let's grab our detail brush and get into this darker green. And we'll go ahead and just add a nice dark green at the base of our holly. Just kind of shadow, we'll highlight the top. This way we just kind of base, and it's hard to float these little things, so we're just gonna not do that with this step, just to eliminate that. Okay, I think it's time for some highlights. So I'm gonna get my big flat brush here. Make sure it's nice and clean again because we are highlighting. So we're just using a wet brush and white paint. So make sure your brush has clean water on it. And then we're gonna dip the corner into the white paint. Make sure there's not too much water on there. And let's just start with the beak because that'll give you an idea of how we're highlighting. We're just gonna go over the top just like that. So you're using that white edge to place the highlights, okay? And then the water's helping it kind of fade off. Okay, so we've got one on this side of the hat And on this side, I'm kind of working around my clipboard here, so you'll have to bear with me there. And now, of course, this is where we distinctly separate our berries, because we're going to highlight them like that. So now you can see the berries. Anytime your brush starts to dry out, add a little more water. All right, let's see, where else are we going? We're going on, oh, that arm is still wet, so I'm gonna wait. Let's do the scarf. We're gonna go up and across our scarf like that. Cute highlight there. We're gonna go around this side like that. Up and around. Cute. And then down this edge of our scarf. Loving it. And then down here as well. Okay, cute. Get a little more water on that brush as it's drying out. All right, let's get the top of our holly. Highlight those leaves. Okay, just like that. And now let's do our little arms here. Just like this. Loving that. Okay, so close to the finish line. Let's use the bottom of our big brush. We're going to dip it in white paint. So we're going to use it as a stamp, and we're going to dot in a nice big reflection and then a small dot in both eyes. Okay, so swirl in a big one, that, and then tap a small one. Go back here and swirl this one a little bigger and tap. Okay, cute. Love that so much. I'm looking over at my original here. We're gonna let these things dry before we glitter. And while they dry, let's just add some fun white in the background. Some fun, almost like ripple halo type around our penguin. Just really light. I like to do this. It draws attention to the subject. It also helps so your background isn't super flat. You know, it gives a little bit of dimension here. So it's just on the corner of my brush, and I'm just swiping it in here. A lot of times we do that at the beginning. This one's kind of difficult because it's such a light turquoise background, and so it kind of does better if we do it at the end. It shows up a little bit more. Okay. Now let's talk about glitter, okay? I've got some glitter paint here. If you have our paint kit, you most likely have some as well. I'm looking at my plate and I'm like, I don't even know if I have a clean spot to put this on, but I think it's dry right here. So I'm gonna put some glitter glaze here. And it's just a white, clear, it'll look white, but it's gonna dry clear. But we're gonna glitter the scarf and the hat. Now you can glitter whatever you want. I like to just pick a few things not to overwhelm people with glitter. So I picked the scarf and the hat. You just want a nice clean brush, and you're just gonna brush over what you want to glitter. I went around the berries because, again, it helps the berries stand out. They're the one thing that's not sparkling, you know, around the hat. Make sure your highlights are dry. If you brush over something that's wet, it's just going to smear the paint, okay? You don't want that, but you can see here it just kind of goes on kind of milky, but it'll dry clear, and then you'll just have a very sparkly, festive scarf and hat, which I think the majority of our paintings for the season have glitter. I mean, you just have to. You just kind of have to. Okay. And you can put multiple layers of the glitter glaze on. It just gets sparklier and sparklier as you go. Again, you're going to be tempted to glitter everything, but speaking from experience, be selective. That way you don't blind the viewer and they can appreciate the glitter. Okay, friends, that is our Christmas penguin. Let's sign our name. I'm going to go with a dark turquoise signature. I'm going to use my detail brush. You can sign with whatever color and wherever on your painting you would like, because it is yours. But please sign it. That takes ownership of your creation, which you should. I hope you love this penguin as much as I do. It's been making me smile for weeks now sitting in my studio. If you enjoyed this tutorial, if you enjoyed our paint kit, give us a thumbs up. We love reviews. We also love to see your art, and we'll share it on social media if you share it with us. So send us pictures of your creations. Let us know how you liked it, and come paint with us anytime. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.